Hey, Steve Stein here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, what I'm going to be doing is talking to you about 5 tips, and I'm actually going to give you more than that, that I wish I knew and worked on sooner as far as guitar playing goes, and maybe those things will help you as well. What I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to be using my Positive Grid Spark amp for some of the things that we're going to be doing, some of the examples and things like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do before we even begin is I want you to understand, you could look at this as a tip, but really the most important thing is I've got my notes over here. Build a better practice routine. Make sure that you stay organized on the things that you need to practice most. Okay, so whether it's a daily routine, whether it's a weekly routine, build yourself out something so you're not just grabbing the guitar every day going, oh, I wonder what I should work on today. Some of that is okay, but you need to have some real elements that you're trying to practice on a daily basis to try and improve upon. And the other thing to remember is you need to stay motivated. So if you build out this practice routine and you wind up just doing the same thing over and over and over, and it never seems to end, you need to find a way of being able to shake that up and add new stuff. Feed yourself new information that maybe, if it's a particular lick, maybe you're doing a different lick. If it's a song, maybe you're doing a different song. If it's a particular technique, maybe you're finding a more fun way to implement that technique, maybe within a song or something like that. But you need to find a way to stay motivated with the stuff that you're practicing. All right, so the first tip I want to give you is make sure that you're building out your fretboard. When you learn something on the fretboard, learn it as well as you can across the entire fretboard. This is something that I wish I had spent more time on when I was younger because I would have saved myself a lot more time further down the line. So for instance, let's just take an example of the A minor pentatonic. It could be anything that you're working on, but maybe you're learning, let's call this the first position here. So you learn that position and you're learning all kinds of different things, licks and whatever inside there. But we've got a second position. We've got those same notes that that exist right here. And a third position, and so on. Now, when I was learning this sort of thing, the problem was it took me a lot longer than it should have, really just out of laziness of learning those positions and truly learning how to connect them together and use them seamlessly with each other. So I think what I did wrong, like a lot of people, is I would set my metronome and I would play them up and down over and over and over from a technical perspective. But I would always play them with what I refer to as blinders on, where when I'm playing them, all I'm doing is I'm seeing that first position when I'm playing it. And if I move to the second position, I'm really only seeing that second position when I'm playing it, as opposed to learning how to kind of move around and connect them together with a flow. I call that meandering. And, if there's other videos on, social media, whatever, you could check out that look at those sorts of things a bit more in depth. But learning how to build out that fretboard is really important, whether it's a scale, whether it's an arpeggio, whether it's your cage chording system, whatever it is that you might be interested in. The second thing I want to touch on is learning the notes on your fretboard, okay? And there's a million ways that you can do this, but truly learning where your notes are on each string. You might learn them, per string, so you learn your 6th string and then you learn your 5th string and so on. Or you might learn them in a relative way, like oftentimes, if people are having a hard time learning each string, which again, if you learn what the chromatic scale is, all 12 notes of the chromatic scale, and then you learn each one on the fretboard and you just sit and think about it and memorize it over and over and over, and don't go too fast. If you don't know the notes on the 6th string, don't move to the 5th string until you know the 6th string, and so on. But be diligent about learning those notes. And then, of course, the other way you can learn it is what I call relative, which is, you learn A is here, and then A is here, and A is here. And, you could learn them that way across the fretboard as well. But ultimately being able to understand where all of your notes are. And the thing I'm going to put into this same category is learning some basic theory. It doesn't have to be, a ton of theory at this point, but understanding what some things are, understanding what triads are, major and minor, what notes go into certain arpeggios, different things like that, I think are really important. Learning your major scale and understanding the relative minor that connects to that. And again, I don't want to bore you with these things right now, but I think that basic fundamental theory is very, very important for you to learn as well. The third thing I want to talk to you about is being creative with the things that you're learning. Instead of just learning techniques and working on fundamentals and basic theory or whatever it might be, you've got to find a way of being able to implement those tools that you're working on in a creative sense. And what's great about nowadays is that you can go on, YouTube or whatever it might be, grab a jam track. You could use the Spark amp, which works amazing for that, for finding jam tracks and working on different backing tracks, things like that, to try and develop your skills and put them to work in a real life sort of situation. So that way, you grab a blues track in the key of G or whatever it might be, or, a swing groove, whatever it might be, or a metal track, and you try and practice those actual tools that you're working on in your daily or weekly practice regimen, and you're putting them to work, and you're actually seeing whether or not they're working for you in a real world perspective, which is really important. That's something that I didn't do enough of either, is I would practice songs, I would learn songs or I would learn various techniques, but oftentimes I couldn't figure out how to make all of these different things that I was working on kind of come together in one cohesive element. And I think that's really important for you to do. So working on real world application of the things that you're working on. If you're learning songs, this gets to the next tip, but if you're learning songs, try and learn to jam with somebody, right? That sort of thing. Or maybe practice along with a metronome or a click track, or if you have any drum software or something like that. And again, the Spark amp works awesome for that sort of thing because there's so many elements like that built into the software that you can use. You can build just a drum beat and play along. Or play along with a jam track or a backing track or whatever it is. So you can build really great tones, and then you can use for instance, build a blues tone and then grab a blues backing track at a particular tempo that you're trying to work on in a particular key and put this stuff to work. Number 4, which is really important, and I never even thought about it when I was younger, was building confidence by building a really great guitar tone. Okay, and it takes a while to get used to that. Again, the great thing about the Spark amp is that, there's a cloud that you can go on. You can download all kinds of different tones, including the tones. There's a bunch of tones that I've made as well. But what I like to do is I'll take these 4 presets here, and what I'll do is I'll go to, for instance, and I'll play this, and I'll build out a clean guitar tone. Okay, and then I'll go to the second one, and I'll build out a crunch tone. Okay, so if I'm playing, I can quickly move between 1 and 2, and I've got this crunch tone. Then what I can do is I can move over to number 3, which for me is more, it's still a crunch tone, but it's a little more of a rock tone that I might use for soloing or whatever it is. And then what I'll do is I'll move over to 4 here and build a heavier sound. Okay? And that way, with a really good guitar tone, something that feels good to you, it sounds good, but it feels good to you, little delay, little reverb, whatever it is that you might want, it can make your practice a lot more fun, especially when you're dealing with that real world perspective that I was just talking about. That can really help that. So instead of just, never changing the volume or tone control on your guitar, or never changing the sounds that you can get. And again, when I was growing up, I never had availability for 7,000 different sounds. If I wanted a Metallica sound, I couldn't just go, look it up like I can now with an amp like this, which is just, it can be very, very inspiring and very motivating as well. So that's something else to think about, is dialing in a tone that feels good to you when you grab your guitar and start practicing. All right, number 5, don't say no to opportunities. Whether they're jamming opportunities with a neighbor, a friend, a relative, whatever it might be, whether it's playing in a garage, playing at church, playing at whatever, anything that you can get as an opportunity to play with other people, do it. Okay, if you get an opportunity to, write with somebody or whatever it might be, go out to shows and meet people. Don't miss out on opportunities, because that's how you build a reputation in this business. Is you've got to get to know people, and you've got to be in front of people for people to be able to think of you. So, when I first started playing, I started playing when I was 13. I really didn't start capitalizing on opportunities until I was about 20 maybe, and there were a number of things that I missed when I was younger that I should have taken advantage of, but I kept telling myself, I'm not good enough. I need to wait until I'm better. Well, how long are you going to wait? So be prepared to take advantage of opportunities when they come your way. Don't say no to things. Take a chance. And this isn't really a tip, but it's just a general idea. Never stop learning. Never stop growing in your playing. When you've established yourself as a player and you like the way you play and you like kind of where you are, that happens after a while, at least hopefully it does. That doesn't mean that you still can't grow, from a guitar perspective in terms of developing further, getting better at certain things that you already do, or what I always call developing the fringes, certain things that you do that that you could add a little bit more. It's not going to completely, convert the way you play, but it can enhance some of the things that you already do, a new lick or a new idea, new pattern, new theoretical concept, whatever it might be, new songs, different music that you've never played before. There's all kinds of different ways to approach that, but you never want to stop growing in your playing and you never want to stop learning. Now that we've got some tips and ideas and things like that we can use to further develop our playing, strengthen our abilities, and have some fun and stay motivated in the process, I want to encourage you to try out these different ideas and share your progress for a chance to be featured on Positive Grid's site, maybe their social channels, things like that. Just make sure that you use the hashtag #FuturePositive. And also, if you can, join us in celebrating 10 years of Positive Grid and the amazing things that they've done by heading over to their website. All right, so take care, stay positive, keep practicing, of course, and I'll talk to you soon.